Welcome, Carl. I'd like to welcome Carl this morning for our final community spot for this semester. We're going to finish up our belonging series. Oh, you get an applause. That's awesome.
Yes.
And so worth it too. So we've been looking at the theme of belonging over the last couple of weeks, and I thought we were looking at the issue of belonging in church. And since you've written a book on church, I thought that you'd know a couple of things about belonging in church, and you take a look at what it means, what makes us a church, what it means to belong in a church, and what church is like. What does it mean for you to belong as part of the body of Christ?
Yeah, so I always think that one of the most important things that we need to do is flip our understanding of how we think about church. So often we think about, so we're a body, and we think of ourselves as a toe, and a really special toe, and I bring my specialness into the body. That is, I bring my meaning and my significance into the body. But actually, really, the kind of the way that the scriptures work is the other way around. That is, we're part of a body, and our significance comes from that we're part of the body of Christ. And so I find it very helpful to think in that way, is to think, actually, I'm special because I belong to this thing, to the body of Christ, to the church of Christ, to this particular church. And yeah, that's who I am. Yeah.
So there's sort of a sense in which there's a belonging that is more permanent than our feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but sometimes our feelings can be a bit different from that, and sometimes the longer you're a part of a church and you're persevering in belonging, there can be sometimes periods where there's a disconnect between I know I belong, but I don't feel like I belong.
Yeah.
So what's your kind of suggestions for what we do when we experience that disconnect?
Yeah, so I think that so often in the Bible we're called to live by faith. So, an example of that is these light and momentary afflictions, are gaining for us an eternal weight of glory. We have to believe that by faith. The external reality says that I'm suffering, but really the kind of the faith appropriated reality is, that God's doing something great. And I think that's true in the church as well, that we need to apply that living by faith to how we understand the church. So I do belong, even though sometimes I don't feel it. And even though sometimes actually maybe I'm excluded from things, or I don't seem to fit, or all that kind of thing. So I think that's really important for us to kind of comprehend. I remember being in a seminar in Tasmania, and a colleague of mine was putting that on, and he said something which was so deeply profound. It just struck me at the time. He said, you don't, it's not that we often think I'm different, therefore I don't belong. But Paul's image of the body is actually saying you are different, and because of that, you do belong. And so I think that's one of the things that we often need to apprehend by faith, is that it's not sameness that makes us the body. It's actually the difference. That's God's wonderful kind of plan and purpose.
That's a really exciting thing to think about, because often, groups outside the church, we join together based on people who are like us, or who like the same music as us, or play the same instruments and so on.
As I always say, nobody else likes a sackbut or plays it. And so that's an instrument, in case you know what that is.
And yet in the church, that's actually a benefit, because we've got...
Well, yes. Theologically, yes.
Yes, theologically. We look forward to hearing it in principles out at some stage.
I live that by faith.
So what would be, I guess, to finish up our community spot this morning, do you have any words of wisdom for how people, when they experience that feeling that belonging is hard, or they're struggling with that feeling of belonging, have you got any wisdom for how they can work through that?
Yeah. Look, I think to recognise that it takes time. So there's an already not yet reality of the church as well. We do belong, but also we're being built together, growing up into him who is the head, even Christ. And so I think just to recognise we are living in that in-between already not yet space. And so it will take time, And it takes that investment. The way that we're being built up together in Ephesians 4 is throughout the exercise of the gifts that God has entrusted to us. So I think just accepting that it's going to take time. I joined a church when I moved to Sydney again to take up my role here. And it's been such an interesting experience having been a pastor now to be a church member. And I think it's taken 3 years. I've been here for 3 years. It's taken all those 3 years to really kind of begin to connect well, I think, with people. And so that's important. It takes time. Sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot because we leave a church too quickly. And I really think it takes 10, 15, 20, 30 years to be in a position where people know you and can love you. And that means I think we should really have a kind of a centre of gravity that holds us in churches for decades, not just years. So that, and then, sorry, Christian.
No, that's all right. Okay.
And then one last thing I think is to engage. So I think to participate, to be in things like, to turn up every week, to be in growth groups, to serve. I always said that as a pastor. We always said, it's so important to turn up every week, to be in a growth group and to serve. And I believed that was helpful. And it was so nice to actually come and join a church and to do those things and go, oh, it actually really works. So
you do as you said.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
So engaging, not withdrawing when we feel that sense of, that's great. Thank you very much for that. So I think what we're hearing is that there's a solid and constant truth that we belong to Christ that transcends any sense of our feelings, and that having faith is an important part of those periods, well, all of the periods, but particularly those times where the feeling is disconnected.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that our response is to give it time. There's a great advertisement there for long-term ministry, and also for seeking to engage and step forward. Yeah. Thanks very much for that, Carl.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.